today takes everything you've got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be where you can see our troubles are all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name. You wanna go where people know people are all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your name.
FightSaga.com presents WAWR Week Radio Chats with boxing scribe Joseph Heron.
Guys, welcome. Happy Monday to everybody. And guys, we have a special treat tonight. Thank you so much for hanging with me. And guys, I'm elated at this point because my Dallas Cowboys just muscled past the New York Giants to move to a 2-1 record. But guys, we're not here to talk about football, NFL. We're going to be talking about boxing, guys, and we're being joined by my very dear friend, the incomparable, always affable, Luke Ketelle. Luke, how are you doing, sir? God bless you, brother.
Feel good. Feel healthy. Feel strong. You know, I weigh a little bit more than I'd like right now. I'm about $175. Trying to get down a little bit, but other than that,
I feel good. Dude, wait, okay. If you don't mind disclosing, how old are you, my friend?
Yeah, old enough, you know.
You don't want to disclose it. Okay, well, I'm an old codger, brother. Despite the voice sounding a lot younger than I am, I'm an old geezer, my friend. I've been doing this ring announcing thing and commentary thing and boxing writing thing for several decades now. And so, I tell you what, you can't feel any worse than me at this point. So I find solace in my Dallas Cowboys, my beloved boxing, and all of that good stuff, my friend.
You know, it's only a temporary feeling, and I think it's very motivating because it's like I always tell myself that I can always work myself back into any type of shape. And I've been thinking about my birthday's in a couple of weeks, speaking of age, and I've been looking at this concept to ski erg. So what better way to possibly maybe get myself like a little medicine ball, get a ski erg, and maybe as fall hits, honestly, my favorite time to get back in shape is in the fall. It's kind of counterproductive. A lot of people like to do that, but I love a little rainy weather, getting some good pumps in. And I'm really trying to commit to some like hour and a half, really fun, kind of hybrid workouts, of some ski erg, some some squat where you throw the medicine ball and then you run, do some sprints. So that's kind of what I'm really gearing up for.
Well, I tell you what, brother. When it comes to fall weather, I love to hit my sweet amber. There's no better weather than the fall. But I will say this, though. It's not good for our beloved boxing because that's football time in our United States. Right? Football reigns supreme in the U.S., which means, well, great boxing cards are very sporadic. But we've got a great one coming up on October 8th, as well as October 15th. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the segment. Luke, the reason why we have you on this show, you just penned a very insightful book, Inside the Ropes of Boxing, penned by my brother, Luke Ketelle. Would you like to talk about it? First of all, Luke, what is your motivation for even penning this brilliant paperback, sir?
Well, the book is, I value all my friends, and Frank Stay is a good friend of mine, and we were talking on the phone as friends do. He told me before it was all said and done, I needed to write 2 boxing books. The first book is kind of a user's guide to the sport. I call it Inside the Ropes of Boxing. I was hoping I could write another book by November. The energy that's going into promoting this book, I don't think it's feasible. So I think next year I'll have Outside of the Ropes of Boxing, 2-part series. And then there'll be complementary pieces where the outside of the ropes are going to be more of my personal stories. I find when I'm doing these interviews, people want to hear the personal stories, but the fighters want this book because this is a helpful roadmap for young amateurs. This is a helpful book for parents getting their kids started, and even a pro at some points in their career to just look back. And I'm not saying it's truth, but it's another voice that you can look at to see what direction your career is at.
Of course. And you've been in the gyms all up and down the West Coast, and you've seen everything that the sport has to offer. Talk about what stories that actually went into penning this brilliant paperback. What trainers, what managers, what fighters went into the inspiration of this?
I mean, I've been very lucky in the sense that, like, when I got into boxing, right? So, like, my first, like, few fights, I went to big major events, but then it just was like losing a lot of money. And I've always been kind of about my money. So I'm not really trying to lose money. So it was like,
Of course.
if I go to like a Manny Pacquiao fight, I have no form of relationship with Manny Pacquiao. So it's great to be able to take a photo of Manny Pacquiao, but it's also kind of pointless to go to a Manny Pacquiao fight because there's not really much that I get that's unique to that other than me getting to go to a Manny Pacquiao fight and have a seat at a Manny Pacquiao fight as opposed to paying for a Manny Pacquiao fight. Once that luster is gone, now you go, okay, where can I get the most exclusive thing? I always knew, I looked at guys like Larry Merchant, that you had to grind your way up. And if you learned from the club scene up, you'd just be a more valuable asset to the consumer, to the person that enjoys the product. I got very lucky in the sense that where I was is what your show's named after. It was Don Chargin and Paco
Don,
Damian. Paco's
the great Don Warwick Chargan. Yeah, he was my mentor. He actually taught me everything I know about the business of boxing. And I was very fortunate to be mentored by, boy, the great one. The Hall of Famer that has over 5,000 promotions under his belt.
and
In
he
the
also
60
will be
in the
promoting
65 years, yes. And he and Lorraine both. Yeah.
I mean, he's also promoting a fight from the grave on October 29th. His name will be ahead of Paco Damian's on the October 29th card.
Oh,
And
God bless Paco. I tell you what, it's been 4 years, Lukey, but I miss Don Chargan every day.
yeah, and it's it's one of those things, right, where this gets because I didn't have that deep relationship with Don, but I was raised on his shows. I talked with
Of
Don a few
course.
times, and I had heard Don had thought highly of me, but I don't officially know because we just didn't have that relationship. I had a very close relationship, and I have a close relationship with Paco because I think the ages are more similar, and also he saw me come in from a guy that knew absolutely nothing about boxing to actually having to sit, not say much, and learn the sport from sitting with the referees, from talking to the fighters, from saying something bad about a fighter in a story and having to go see a fighter. I came up from
Yep.
the ground up where, like, I learned how you
Yep.
had, like, what the goalposts were, because there isn't any security at a club show, but you
That's
want to
right.
keep going back. So you have to learn how you can cover a fighter and have their respect but speak on them with truth where the listener and the reader wants to see it, but you're also not disrespecting them where you have to get into a friendly fade in the best case scenario, because nowadays people mostly shoot, they don't even punch. So you want to avoid those situations as much as possible. So I was going to those shows, befriended Andy Vences. Andy has always been
Oh
a
yeah,
close.
Andy was a former Don Chargan fighter. He was working with Top Rank for a bit, and then he was cut loose a little bit. And he just competed on their card
Yeah, I
this
mean,
past Friday.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, and I also want to shout out to Anthony Manzano, hashtag MOB. Anthony, I appreciate you tuning on. You've I've seen you in many chats, and I appreciate you being here, checking out this stream. It's a so Andy was with Herb Stone, and Herb Stone had a lot of really good fighters, one of which was Bruno Escalante. So I got to know Bruno. I
Bruno
got to know Mike
Escalante.
Basil.
Yep.
And I got to know from Basil, I got to know someone who's like a big brother mentor figure whose name's Miguel Rios, who's the head coach of Charlie Sheehy, who I look at Charlie as like a little brother to me. And it was an organic relationship of being a good person, of earning respect from the fighters, of making mistakes, but making mistakes in the right ways. And I got lucky to have Don Chargin be the shows, because for all I know, I didn't know anything really. Like, I had done a little boxing, but I didn't know anything about like what's a good show. So the shows I was learning on were Don Chargin shows. Those could have been rinky-dink shows put together by a greedy promoter that didn't benefit me, but I was at shows that Don Chargin put on where fighters like Nonito Donaire came back to pay respect, where fighters like Andre Berto and Alfredo Angulo would come because they had sparred guys that were on the card, like Jonathan Sheekus. So I went to those cards. Then through my relationship with Andy Vences, I started going down to shows that Top Rank were putting on by match made by Brad Goodman, Bruce Trampler. I think they're two of the best matchmakers in the
They
business,
are the best, sir.
Best. And Rick Merigian. Rick Merigian has been a huge inspiration.
Rick Merigian's a great manager.
Because
great manager of boxing.
Rick was taking a region, Fresno, that a lot of people growing up had always kind of disrespected Fresno. And Rick was putting together live gates that were comparable to big cities with Jose Ramirez. And I saw him go from the Celluland Arena to the Tachi Palace Outdoors to the Fresno State basketball court and consistently fill the buildings. And I didn't know any of these things, right? So I go from Don Chargin shows to now. I remember the first time I went to a Rick Merigian show, it was like, okay, this is 2 hours and 45 minutes from my house, and I'm going to drive there and I'm going to drive back. And I remember thinking, man, I hope my car doesn't break down. Like, I really thought this. I've never said this, but I was like, this is a big commitment, but I got to do it for Andy. And it was Andy's first Top Rank fight, and it was those old TV Spanish cards. They weren't really amazing cards. Yeah, and I think Andy Ruiz might have fought on it. Daniel Valdivia fought Jeremy Ramos.
And that's another thing, though, Luke. I mean, because back then we had the kind of boxing hierarchy back then, right? Where you had Friday night fights, you had Telefutura, and those were the breeding ground, right, of the guys who were just on the cusp of superstardom, guys who were blue chip prospects, right? And it's funny. Do you remember what the purse was for like ESPN whenever they would give a Friday night fights date to a local promoter? Do you remember how much they would actually give to put on a card or to furnish the main event? It was always only $50,000.
See, I never was interested in that, just because it didn't pertain to my money. I'm just saying, like, if it comes down to my money, I want to know everything about my money. But like, for the fighters,
but here it is, and this is why it's so important, right? And on this channel, it's almost fortuitous that you're on this channel right now, because we always profess, and this is once again going from my mentor Don Chargin, right? We always profess the business of boxing. And one of the reasons why is because we try to educate fans to make sense as to why deals get made and why they don't. And later on this show, we're going to tell you why Tyson Fury Manuel Char will not get made. Okay? And we'll educate our listeners as to why not. Okay? And it has everything to do with the business of boxing. Okay, so that's the primary reason why everyone should be interested in as to how much a network pays for a certain main event, right? So let's go back to your book, though, brother. So what was the primary interest and inspiration
Well,
for
it
inside the
was
ropes of
about
boxing?
it was Frank Staya, because Frank's a good friend to me, and I've always been impressed with Frank, because Frank's someone who kind of could effortlessly say boxing knowledge and say it so nonchalantly. And then if I thought deeply, I'm like, man, Frank's right. And I was always like, man. And like he always, I felt like had a lot of respect for me. But it's like it's a twofold relationship, because I had never seen someone explain to me either the economics or how a fighter could end up in this sparring camp, how that could open up an opportunity. I just never thought of the sport that way. And a big
Yeah,
moment was like, I remember I knew all the main event fighters, and there was a fighter named Danny Gonzalez. He's no longer with us. And I remember him talking about his developmental fights
yep.
of Danny Gonzalez. And I remember that I couldn't even be involved in that conversation, because I wasn't even on that level of understanding a development of a fighter. And I just remember being like, man, I don't want to be the guy that can't jump into I felt like a big boy boxing conversation, and I can't be a part of a big boy boxing conversation. So I
That's
really
great,
prided
man.
myself on being able to never have that. It's not memorable to him or the people that were there, but it was memorable to me, because I was like, man, I don't want to be just one of these guys. I want to be in these big boy boxing conversations where people have to
That's
take me
right.
serious. So that was kind of a turning point for me. But the big thing is about the book was I didn't know what to write a book about, so I just started writing about what I wish I had known coming into boxing, and it turned into 117 pages on the paperback, 86 on the Kindle, because you have to restructure the Kindle, so forth and so on.
Of course.
And I
Of
think that
course.
it's very helpful for people getting into the sport, or if you want to be a professional. If nothing else, it offers a lot of reflection, and I think reflection is good in any industry if you really want to succeed.
Well, I tell you what, brother, if you're ever interested in turning this into an audiobook, I can do that for you, because that's what I do on the side as well. I do voiceover work.
Okay, well, I mean, we
So if
are
you're
in the
interested in
process
that,
of working on that, but we might. Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead, sir. Go ahead,
I was
Luke.
just gonna say I am in the process of that, but I'm actually looking at I might do multiple different voiceovers, because I was thinking about this, because look, as I was saying to someone else earlier today, there's a lot of people that can't read, and there's even more people that are embarrassed to say they can't read. And I want people to feel comfortable with the audiobook, because look, there's people that might want like punk rock music, and they might want a punk rock guy to read the book. There's people that might like a lot of hip hop music, and they might want a hip hop personality because they feel more connected to that. So I don't feel attached, if possible, to one style of a voiceover, because I feel like different people want different things, and I want the knowledge to be conveyed in a voice they feel most familiar with.
Well, I tell you what, I'm a ring announcer in South Texas. I'm a commentator in South Texas. So if you're interested, well, we'll be in touch, my friend. But I tell you what, though, it's very interesting. Before we move forward, let's say hi to a couple of friends in our chat, right? Our dear friend Anthony Manzano. He says hi, Luke. Our brother Rodney Evans. He says, "Damn, Joe, thought we'd get an announcement by now." Well, we'll talk about that in the latter part of the show, and I'll tell you everything I know from our dear friends at Showtime, right? And he's referring to Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford. And I want to give a shout out to my brother John McSmith. Thank you for always supporting World Week Radio, sir. He says, salute to the voice of World Week Radio and musician extraordinaire, Joseph Herron. And you know what? If I keep on downing some sweet amber, I'll sing a song for you, my friend. Thank you for joining us, John McSmith. We appreciate it, my brother. Also want to give a shout out to our brother, Carl, the Crocodile Hunter Hansen. He's listening from down under. He says, salute, Joe, at work, brother, listening in. Thank you so much for slaving away and listening to us. Thank you, my brother. So I tell you what, Luke, so what has been the single most important lesson that you've learned at the grassroots level that transcends to everything that everyone else watches? Okay, that on at the within the YouTube boxing community.
Wait, what about that I watch?
Well, no. What is the single most important lesson that you've learned at the grassroots level that transcends to the YouTube boxing community that they should know that they don't?
You can learn from everyone. You can learn from
Absolutely.
everyone. I think that even the fighter that's 0-10, you can possibly learn a positive and a negative. The positive is probably like what not to do, but you can
Yep.
learn from everyone. This is a cold game, and you got to learn from everybody in this business. Like that's the honest truth about this. Is like this is a sport where it never hurts to get as many voices or as many opinions. The big thing though with that is you can't act off of everyone's advice. You have to synthesize the advice.
You know what? That's a very insightful statement because yeah, this business, and once again, guys, it's called the boxing business, but the most important word of that label is the second one. It's the business. It's business before boxing. And I know most fans don't want to hear that, but that's the reality. Okay. It's not a sport. It's a business. Luke, there are two reasons why anyone gets involved in this business. One is to make money. Two is to make more money. And that's it. Most
Or
fighters.
three, I think, lose money.
Well, no one comes in trying to lose money, but yes, you and I have both been witness to benefactors who have bled money when it comes to the business of boxing, trying to reinvent the wheel, and they realize, boy, it's a lot of money. It takes a lot of money, a lot of patience, and it takes, well, having a lot of knowledgeable people around you, right? And so that's the purpose of your book, isn't it? By giving people a leg up, right?
Yeah, I
Getting into
mean,
the business of boxing.
I'd say like it's that's a good part of it. It's also just as simple as don't just go to any boxing gym. Like boxing's a thing where like if you're starting your kid off in boxing, like do some research. You can possibly just put someone in a football program that you deem somewhat successful because you can see some accolades or they're going to show up somewhere. Boxing's the type of sport where there's such a difference between coaches and
Yep.
expectations from the coaches. If you want to be a national or amateur fighter, would your coach be willing to take a week off of work? Would he be willing to travel with you? How do former fighters from that gym view the gym? Do they come back? If they don't, why don't they come back? There's so many questions. It's almost like when you get a bank account, most people don't look at what bank to put their money into. They never research it. It's
Yep.
like, okay, what's closest to my house? But it's kind of a pivotal decision because some banks give you 2% interest on the money you have over a certain amount. Some give you 0.01, right? But not many people really research a bank. I feel like the same is true with boxing in the sense people go as like, okay, this is going to be a recreational thing. Or the typical scenario is there's a lot of really good fighters that are father-son duos. And the reason I believe that is, and I talk about it in the book, is you almost need a father watching over you at every step of the way in order to be a great fighter. So when you go home, they're making you a protein shake. They're making sure you're running. They're making sure you're doing this because it takes that type of intensity to create an all-time great fighter to some extent. That being said, it's like, okay, the father goes, takes this kid to a gym. He's probably going to learn how to be the head coach at some point. So is this person that's kind of passing down and installing knowledge? Is that person a teacher? Is that person a leader? Is he going to empower that person? What type of environment is it? Because they're probably learning what they think boxing is from this one gym and the surrounding gyms.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, right? Because our brother Kenny Weldon, the late great Kenny Weldon of Houston, Texas, he told me about a decade ago. He said, Joseph, this is a reoccurring problem because often I will see a lot of talent come out of the amateurs, and their fathers as overbearing as they are, will get in the way and will think they know a lot more than they do. Okay, we've seen exceptions.
That's the
We've
kiss of
seen
death, right?
Yeah, of course it is, and that's the thing, because we've seen exceptions of that. Okay, Floyd Schofield, Bill Haney, but that's very few and far in
Ken
between.
Porter, I
Isn't
think
it?
Ken Porter's done a great job.
Kenny Porter. Well,
Even
Kenny
though Gabe
Porter's
Flores Jr. has had a couple of losses, I think his father's done a great job.
Well, Kenny Porter's different. Kenny Porter's a lot more humble than most boxing fathers. Okay, he's learned from some of the best, right?
And he's largely disrespected too. Like, people never give him his acclaim, where he's actually a very technical coach. And
he's an
Kenny
excellent coach. He's an excellent coach. And yeah, you're right. You're right, though. He hasn't been disrespected, Luke.
And he was the USA boxing coach in 2012. Like, he was a technical coach for that team. They don't just go, hey, you're a nice guy, let's have you be a technical coach for this program. No, you actually have to show that you're capable of it.
That's right. He's actually learned from guys like Barry Hunter, Mike Stafford. He's a brilliant guy. And yes,
he brought guys around him, right? So it's like,
that's right.
He'd take his son to train with Barry Hunter along with him to get other opinions. Like, that's the sign of a great leader, in my opinion, is it's not just my program. Let's see what another great program's doing and try to push ourselves to a very elite level through competition, through going to this other gym, but working together.
That's right. I love your insight, Luke. Thank you so much for being on the show, sir. And once again, what's the name of the book, sir? Show us the cover. Once again, my friend.
It's Inside the Ropes of Boxing. It's kind of annoying. I think someone's trying to hack into my Amazon account tonight.
Oh,
so that's
stop
kind of a
it.
bummer. No, I'm serious, because like someone put a couple of I went on Amazon just a second ago, and it said that I had 2 items in my my cart, and I didn't put those items. So I've done a reset where it's linked to my phone, and then when I get off this chat, I'm going to reset my password to the publishing and that. But I do think that, sadly, because the book is being notable and it's published through Amazon, I do think that some people that are evil doers are trying to probably get a little bit of the money that I've worked hard to earn.
Oh, don't say that, man. That's terrible. But I tell you what, Luke, we have a lot of respect for you and the work that you've done. You're a brilliant boxing scribe. The periodicals that you've written for, you have so much insight. So let's put that insight to work. Let's talk about the current events right now while we actually promote your book. Let's talk about the current Tyson Fury debacle, so to speak. So he's actually given this deadline, right, to Anthony Joshua as well as his handlers, and it was today. And he said, "Oh, officially, Anthony Joshua. He's off the block now. He didn't sign on the dotted line, but come on, how seriously should fans take that, Luke?"
I mean, I never take any of these super fights too serious, because they always feel like that's ego and vanity first, and then it's making the fight second. Because to me, it feels like Anthony Joshua put out a tweet where he's like, we're not doing this in public, we're doing this behind doors. But it's like, if you're really doing it behind doors, why did send the tweet? It's basically just saying, let's see if you're really about it. And then Tyson Fury sets his own deadline to basically say, are you really about it? What about this really feels like the fight is getting made? It feels like it's more so posturing amongst 2 really powerful fighters to really say, like, look at how powerful I am. I can out powerful you.
Yeah, when you look at Tyson Fury, right, until he actually steps foot in the ring, everyone should consider him a retired fighter. Because to be honest with you, when you look at the economics involved, right, who the hell is going to pay for a matchup with him and Manuel Char, or him and anyone else but Anthony Joshua? When you look at all the money that they lost with the Dillian White fight, BT Sports, they took a financial bath, right? You look at ESPN, they took a financial bath, right? So realistically, with the money that he's grown accustomed to earning in his last 3 events, do you really think he's going to come out of retirement for drips and drabs to fight Manuel Char?
I mean, the obvious answer is no, because it's like once you get accustomed to making a lot of money, you don't want to go and like, I'll fight for, that's the kind of the problem with boxing, right? It's like these guys get mandatory minimums, and then you have fighters that are like, well, my minimum's a couple of $1 million. I know that I'm not really that relevant of a fighter, but who can we put me in there with to fulfill the contract that I now have?
That's right.
And then it creates these fights where it's like the fans are like, why is this on pay-per-view? Or why is so-and-so fighting? And it's like, well, one guy's making about 80% of the purse, and then they have to find someone, and then they have to kind of put together an undercard that fits in. I think the issue is Fury's one of the greatest fighters in the sport. He's one of the greatest heavyweights ever. But he and Usyk are interesting in the sense where they really earned their spot, but they never really got the following that they yearned for. The world wanted Joshua and Wilder in a way to be those guys that these guys turned out to be. And even now, that's like a more probably financially viable fight, even though that's a crossroads fight. And I think it makes it hard because Fury wants the big dollars he should command, but he rubs a lot of people the wrong way at times.
Well, the fans are irrelevant, to be honest with you, since the advent of illegal streaming. They're irrelevant. I mean, it used to be, and Don Chargan always used to stress the importance of the real bosses of boxing being the fans. But because most diehard fans are streaming this stuff illegally, they've silenced their once strong voice, right? And most promoters, networks, they don't even recognize their voice any longer. Not the way it was in previous eras, right? So we look at Tyson Fury, and where is he going to be able to demand? Like in his last event against Dillian Whyte, he made $31.8 million, right? If he's expecting anywhere near that, okay, the only opponents that he's going to be able to demand that kind of purse is either Alexander Usyk or Anthony Joshua. And Alexander Usyk is a stretch. Unless that fight happens in the Middle East, okay, he's not going to be able to demand a $30 million purse. That's the problem. This is why I say you might as well consider him retired until he steps foot in the ring, right? That's just the way it is. But I tell you what, let's go to some of our friends in the queue. Let's say hi to our friend Frank by the Bay. He says, "Gotta think who opens gyms, Luke." That's a big question because anyone can open a gym. But once again, and he says also most people in boxing work 9 to 5 jobs, 8 to 5, right? We also want to give a shout out to our brother Bruce, Gas, Boxing, Jazz, and more. Salute, Joseph. Salute to you, my friend. Guys, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our brother Bruce. Always good stuff. Always insightful. Always great boxing conversation. Also want to give a shout out to our brother Tony Boswell. Much respect, WAWR Week Radio, and the chat stopped in to show support and hit the like button. Yes, guys, please hit the like button for my brother Luke. Work comes early. Good night and God bless. God bless to you, my friend. Thank you for stopping in. But I also want to give a shout out to my brother Major Key Boxing. Always very knowledgeable. Guys, if you haven't already subscribed, please go subscribe to my brother Major Key Boxing. But I tell you what, Luke, very, very, let's go back to your book. So how far does this actually go? How far does the rabbit hole go?
I mean, I'll break you down. So we start with where to choose a gym. We go to the amateurs, the AAA of boxing. We go to sparring, what you should know. So basically the tiers of sparring and how you can get it.
I love
Fighting
it.
without emotion. That's a big thing. Is a young fighter kind of I view emotion as the alcohol of life for a fighter. Alcohol in life, you have to learn how to contain your ability to drink it at some point because it feels good, but the consequences are quite nasty. Having emotion in the ring is not the best thing to have. We have a chapter on character, the character of the individual, chapter on the parents turning professional and finding a manager, the
That's
boxing
amazing.
business and promotions, why it's vital to have a cut man, setting expectations for your pro career, investing in yourself, the big fight, the sorrow of losing, and the 13th round. So that is the chapters for the book.
That's incredible. That's great. And that's a lot of insightful stuff. A lot of insightful information for anyone who wants to get into, well, the often unfair, brutal ass beating business of boxing. I tell you what, though, Luke, we love your insight, sir. We absolutely love your insight. At this time, though, we have to recognize some of our sponsors, and this is Halftime Pizza in South Texas.
With over 20 years of experience, Halftime Pizza is serving true, authentic, hand-tossed pizza with the freshest ingredients, offering online ordering for takeout or delivery. Better yet, experience our family-friendly spot for sports, wall-to-wall TVs, and surround sound. Not a bad seat in the house. Serving both lunch and dinner. You're sure to find something for everybody's taste. A great selection of your domestic beers and some unique craft drafts. From cold beer, crisp salads, our famous pizza rolls to pizza and wings. We have it all. Halftime Pizza with 2 locations to serve you. 7126 Tesla Road and 7531 Bandera Road. Anytime is a great time for Halftime Pizza.
I tell you what, we want to give a shout out to our brothers, or my brother Dave Garcia and his lovely wife, Monica Garcia, for always supporting live boxing entertainment in the South Texas area, and for always supporting WAWR Week Radio. Thank you so much, guys. And if you're in the South Texas area, please go visit both locations of Halftime Pizza in San Antonio, Texas. But I tell you what, Luke, it's very important that, like, when parents get their kids involved in amateur boxing, right? When you look at, yes, they've racked up a couple of wins in a row. What would be your guide in telling them what to expect and what to look for in choosing a gym, a head trainer, that sort of thing, sir? Oh, hold on. Let me. Okay. Hold on. Your mic is muted, sir.
My internet keeps going
Okay,
out.
there it is.
Sorry about my tech issues. My internet's having.
No, that's all right. We can hear you loudly and clearly now, sir.
Okay, so I do apologize. Can you say that one more time because my internet was going in and out?
No, that's all right, sir. When you see an avid fighter, right? A young, either gentleman or young woman, right? Young lady, and their parents, and they want to get more involved, and they're thinking about this more seriously in terms of a business. Where would you direct them?
To Petco. Because if they want a friend, they should buy a dog, like Harry S. Truman said.
Oh my gosh. That's a Billy Bob Thornton answer, my friend. Oh, geez. But I tell you what, Lukey, going back to, well, first of all, let me give a shout out to my brother, Peter Von Arx. Good evening, Joseph and Luke. Good evening to you, sir. God bless you. And thank you for always supporting WAWR Week Radio. Also want to give a shout out to my brother, Issy B. DeVoe. I'm late, but I made it to the show. Respect to Mr. Heron and Mr. Ketelle in the chat. Respect to you, my friend. Thank you for always supporting WAWR Week Radio. But I tell you what, Luke, when you look at the YouTube boxing community, right? And you look at how many channels there are, and you look at how many fans still bellyache about boxing. But then you look at the calendar so far. You look at all the great matchups that we've had in 2022, and you look at the calendar up ahead. Do you think boxing fans as a whole have been spoiled up to this point? And it's just a reflex in terms of them complaining.
I think as a society, we've been taught to hate each other. So I think in terms of everything we love, we just go back to what we've been taught, which is to hate. And I believe that we're born into sin. So I think it's easier to do the negative than it is to do good because of just our natural preconceived notions of how we are as people. I'll never get on a fan's helmet or their bumper about having a fan opinion because first off, it's pretty cool they take time to make something about boxing, right? It's pretty cool
Yep.
they do that. There's not a lot of stuff that I consume unless it's someone I know or someone that is a fighter that I know that I want to see some stuff just because it's not very relaxing. There's not a lot of content that I find, don't want to say enjoyable, but it's like I'd rather, like I was saying to someone else, rather listen to a show about astronomy and learn some facts on astronomy. I'd rather listen to a show about forensic science. Like there's so much boxing that comes through my cell phone and that I talk to
Yeah.
people about that I live in a world through social media where I only consume a bit of the boxing stuff, and it's the stuff people directly send me. It's the things Twitter mentions. Maybe someone will send me I don't even go to boxing scene. People send me things from boxing scene. So I get what you're saying, but like I'll click on a video for 30 seconds and not care. And that's just how it is for me.
Wow. So it's funny. It's become almost a labor, more than just a labor of love at this point for you.
I mean, to me, it's almost like the mob because there's so many times that I've wanted to leave boxing, and then a parent will
Yep.
basically be like, "Hey, can you just talk to my kid or something? Can you come to this fight?" And it's like, well, I can't really leave because they're asking because I was thinking
course.
after Charlie Sheehy, I was like, okay, Charlie's probably gonna have about 5-7 years in boxing. He gets done. Maybe I can just leave. I was like, maybe he does it and I can gracefully leave. And then I meet this young man named Jamal Harvey, and it's like, oh man, maybe I'm doing the Jamal thing. And I meet Sierra Martinez, and I absolutely love her, and I love her dad.
Of course.
So it's like it's a never-ending cycle. But it's like
it never ends. And you know what? That's the key word. It never ends. Because let me tell you, I worked extensively with Emmanuel Stewart as well as Don Chargan, and I miss those guys every day, right? And they always took care of everyone who worked with them, right? Very few people that I've ever met in this industry take care of their people the way Emmanuel Stewart as well as Don Chargan did. And so when they passed away, I actually left the boxing business and I actually pursued music, and I put out 2 albums, and I actually left for about half a decade. Well, I came back about a year and a half ago, right? And I started doing ring announcing. I started doing commentary, and I'm working my way back into the business. And you're right. It's like as soon as you find yourself thinking that you've left it in the dust, it's almost like you've become a lifer. Like you can't shake it, Luke. Is that how you feel as well?
Well, I mean, look, over 80% of my friends are boxing people. So it's like, let's say I leave boxing. It's like an alcoholic that works at a bar. You know, like, what are we going to do? We're going to end up being in boxing. So there's not really like a positive, like a scenario unless my life dramatically changes for better or worse. it's just the life I chose, and I embrace everything that comes with that. I accept all invitations with the life I chose.
You know, that's interesting that you say that, though, Luke, because most great boxing guys that I've talked to, including Don, including Emmanuel, they insisted to me that they didn't choose boxing. Boxing chose them. Do you feel that same way?
I don't really think about it that way, to be honest with you. I don't think about it on what chose what. It's just I think about the here and now, and this is where I'm at now, and I've worked hard to be in this. And I also wanted to say, everyone from my cover artist Kronk Art to my publicist Mario Serrano, everyone involved in my project got paid. They got paid on the first day they asked for payment. In both instances, they didn't even ask for the payment. I paid them before. So I think a big deal for this book too is everyone that put work into it has been paid, and my goal is to sell 1,000 copies independently, and I really hope I can achieve that goal, because that's a goal that I really hope I can do. I'm about a quarter of the way there. So
Well, I tell you what, guys, Inside the Ropes of Boxing by our brother Luke Ketelle. Please go out and purchase that on Amazon. Please go out and purchase that.
I
And
mean,
we're
even if you don't, like, it's just like, it's a great thing even if you can't read. It's a great thing because I got a professional cover. You put it on your coffee table. What is it? It says I'm a boxing guy, right? So if you like boxing, you have people over, they drink beer, drink coffee, you cook food. If you want to start a boxing conversation, identify as a boxing person, throw that book on the table. It says, "Hey, I'm a boxing person." So even if you don't want to read it, don't care about it, it's a great way to define your life if boxing defines you.
And there it is. And there it is. In the last 10 minutes of our segment, Luke, what would you like to talk about? The floor is yours, sir. We can talk about whatever you
I'm
want,
just
my friend.
honored to be on your show. When you go to self promote, right? It's scary. Like, I'm sure you feel it when you do music. You hear more no's than yeses, and
Yep.
it's hard. It's hard to not get hurt, right? Because this book is so deeply personal. This is what I stand on. I spent money that I didn't have to spend. It could just sit in the bank, and I put money into this because I believe in it and I think it can help people. Yet at the same time, people I feel I've helped will say comments that are mean, negative, ignore the message. And you'll think like, well, I helped you in the past, and I've always tried to be nice to you or whatever. And I guess you just don't think that I'm worth anything, right? And it's hard to not. I guess a quote I always reflect on is John Gotti once said, "Everybody's a gangster till a gangster's in the room." And I guess I always expect everybody to be a boxing person and to behave like a boxing person. And sometimes the way people talk confuses me, especially on the internet. So I'm grateful to be on this program.
Well, I tell you what, Luke, you're a credit to the sport, sir. You're a very good guy, and you're very insightful, and you have a lot to offer. So, guys, please go purchase Luke Ketelle's book, Inside the Ropes of Boxing.
And next year we're gonna do outside the ropes of boxing, and that's gonna have like my stories of when I almost got murdered to go film Edgar Berlanga, driving 16 hours in one day to Palm
Holy
Springs and
cow!
back.
Okay, give us a preview of that, my friend.
Which one? I mean, there's countless gym stories. It's it's.
Well, I've got so many stories with Don Chargan as well as Emmanuel Stewart. Please give us just one story.
I mean, which one of those sounded
experience.
interesting to you? And I'll give you that one,
Well, you know what? Just your years within the boxing business. Okay, that's enough. That's enough. So
I mean,
whatever
I feel
comes to
like
your brain, sir.
I mean, I'll give you the murder story because I mean, I feel like that's the one that everyone would probably be like, "Oh, how'd you almost get
And there
murdered?"
it is. And there it
Right.
is.
So
Shoot, Lukey.
I'm going on my way. Berlanga's training in San Carlos. Sergey Derevyanchenko is at Snack. Derevyanchenko. I don't even know if Derevyanchenko was at the gym, Aloha Time gym in San Mateo. But Berlanga was his chief sparring partner. Andre Rozier is out there and stuff. And go over the bridge. It's the San Mateo Bridge. You go over the bridge, and traffic sucks, and it's like noon, and I'm on the phone with a buddy, and this dude's riding my ass, and I think I was like this, like kind of like this. I wasn't mad, but I was like, what gives? And I'm talking on the interview. I'm talking on the phone to an interview in Fresno, an interviewer named Richard Ortiz, and he can account for this story if Richard ever comes on your program, which he should because he's a good man and he should come on this program. Is the kid drives by me and he lets it be known what he had. We won't spell it out on this program, but he let it be known what he had. And he was ahead of me and he passed, and he had no shirt on and he had no license plate on either one, and his car just looked awful. You can tell when someone's really in pain and willing to do whatever because the way they treat themselves and their personal property
Oh,
is
boy.
often really bad. So you can
Yep.
only imagine how they'd treat someone else. And this guy was really riding a car that looked like it had the flu. He had no shirt on, and he had an RIP lanyard.
Looked like
So
it had
he-
the flu.
So he passes me, and then he pulls over to the side of the freeway, and he waits for my car. So I do a couple of dangerous moves to avoid him, like a jackrabbit or something, like a something. He made like a Fast and the Furious move, darting through traffic to get right even with me.
Wow.
I was pretty much convinced I was getting shot because I was pretty sure that I was going to get shot. So I made peace at that moment with getting shot. I was like, okay, it's probably going to burn. We just probably can't take it in the head. So I was trying not to get hit in the leg. I was trying not to get hit in the head. I was accepting that I was probably going to be shot and I was going to probably crash my car because when I get shot, I was expecting it to be like 10 shots. I'm going to crash my car and then I'm just going to have to pull through. So I was expecting I'm going to get hit. It's going to be really, really intense. People are going to be yelling, and then I'm just going to have to get through it. And that's just the situation. So I came to peace with that within like a 10-second span. That's where we're at. So you always, when there's power delegations in your life, when people hold power over you, oftentimes like the threat of death is something people will always hold over you because we're all so scared of it. If you can ever find peace in that not being as much of a fearful thing, a lot of people don't hold as much power over you as you think because that's always like an omnipresent thing. So that's something I learned from being around a lot of predators early on in my life is they try to weaponize your own fears. And then another thing is I have trouble with emotion because people around me, if you show emotion, then you're going to be victimized because people are going to use your emotions against you. They're going to prey upon your
Absolutely.
emotions. So I'm expecting that basically my car is going to get Swiss cheesed. So I'm waiting and the kid's yelling. I can't, for the life of me, I don't know what he was yelling, but he was yelling to roll down my window. I don't roll down my window because I'm assuming the minute I roll it down, he's shooting because he wanted the glass not to break. I think what I was thinking was if I don't roll down my window, the glass, if it's going through the glass, that's going to slow down the trajectory of the bullet. So I probably got a better chance if I don't roll down the window. So I'm just sitting there. So for some reason or another, maybe he thought I was on the phone with the cops. I had shown the phone. Like I was like, and then the guy I'm on the phone with, he's like, what kind of car is it? And I'm like, bro, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know. This is happening fast.
Oh, jeez.
Well, no, like because it's like that's what I tell like a lot of young people, right? When you're in a situation like this, you don't realize it until you're in the situation. Situations like this, like I've been in like 4 of these type of situations.
Oh, jeez.
And honestly, it kind of brings a lot of comfort because a lot of them were in my teenage years. So it kind of like makes me remind myself of my teenage years. So it's kind of like Like it's kind of like the way people get fuzzy memories of playing baseball. This is how this stuff kind of feels. Like it's like, oh yeah, that's that feeling. Like I remember that feeling. Like, have you ever almost got jumped by somebody and you don't know the outcome of it and your heart races a special way? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, of course.
Like
Of
like and
course.
maybe someone has a little pea shooter, like a gun, and you're like, oh my god, I might get shot, and you feel
22.
that
Yeah.
different
Yeah, of
type of,
course.
you feel that where you can't control the outcome. So like
Yep.
that's a feeling, like when I feel that, which I don't feel anymore, that's a very comforting feeling for me. It's like, okay, I'm back to being 17 again. Like that's a feeling that for most people that brings them fear.
Wow.
For me, that's something that brings me great comfort, because that's a feeling that I used to feel when I was younger. So in this moment, that helped me, because I was like, okay, this reminds me of being 16 or 17, right? So I'm kind of comforted. I'm kind of like elated, even though I'm expecting to get shot. I have a comfort in it. And the kid pulls in front of me. I'm like, what? He pulled in front of me. Like, why would you do that? So I let him get a little ahead. I go slow. A couple of cars pass me. I slowly get off of the freeway. I pull off. I go into these streets. Um, the gym is off like a main road, but it's a little off next to a train station. So I'm thinking this kid might be circling around to kind of get me. Like he messed up and he was on a mission and he might be going. So
Jeez.
I parked in a like right by, like 3 blocks down. I parked next to a house, laid in my back seat for 15 minutes. Went to the gym, went in pretty quick. Told Charlie Sheehy, who I think the world. I go, hey Charlie, I almost got shot. I'm kind of tripping. And I don't think he even believed me. No one really believed me. No one thought this story is true because I'm such an outrageous dude, but it really happened. Berlanga's there. Then I'm trying to set up this light and my hands are shaking because I'm kind of like tripping. So I'm like, my hands are shaking. I'm dropping the light. So I'm like, okay, we're not going to shoot it with a light. So I just shoot the video. It's on ITR Box and I shoot the video, Edgar Berlanga interview. And then Berlanga keeps wanting me to tell his dad the story. And I'm like, bro, this just happened to me. And I'm kind of tripping because I don't know how the outcome's going to play. So I'm trying to shoot this video, do my thing, and then kind of get back to where, like, I know I have friends, because that was the other thing is, like, I have friends in this area, but it's like, I don't really know people out here. And it's like, I don't really know if I'm in San Mateo, what do I do? You know, it's like I've been in Concord and Oakland type of things, not the same type of intensity, but like I at least know, okay, if you're in this area, cruise to this area or this thing, and that's going to be like a little safety buffer for me. There was no safety buffer. So I shoot the piece. I think I did a good job with the piece with Berlanga, and people seem to like it. It's on the channel. And then for like a week and a half, like I swear I kept thinking that the person that was on the road had gotten my plates, and I'd be tripping every now and then. Like I'd see like a dude on a cell phone and I'd be like, ah, shit, that's him. And then like I'd walk by him and it was just like a random person. So like that's like one of those things where like I didn't feel like I was affected by it really after like I knew I was safe. But I think I was, because it kind of lingered a little bit, but it was all good. We just shook it off, and now it's pretty funny. You know, it's like a funny story. Honestly, I left that story concerned for the young man. Like after I knew I was safe, I was like, damn, like I wish I could talk to that youngster, because like a lot of people were like, was it because you're a white guy? And I'm like, bro, I don't even think it had to do with race. I think that was just a hurt young person, and he's just so hurt. He wants to lash out because he's so angry. And I just was in that situation where my anger was at him, but he just felt the energy. I wasn't trying to go up with him. He wanted to go up, and I didn't have that energy to go up. So then he was roaming around like a hammerhead shark, looking to see what else can he conjure with this energy. So I felt very sad, and I honestly left that. I couldn't have a conversation with him, but deep down in my heart, I know when I talk to God and when I speak, I hope that young man's okay, because even though we had our differences and we kind of went our separate ways, and for the good, right? Because it could have been a bad situation for me. We went our separate ways. He left a lasting impact on my life, and I hope that he's okay. I hope he didn't make bad decisions. And if any young person out there, this sounds like a story that they were involved in, reach out to me, because that touched my life. And you know, I just hope that young person's doing good, because I've seen far too many people you know, where I'm from, Joseph, people aren't successful. I'm the only person that was a college graduate out of my friends, and
Wow.
all my talented friends became alcoholics or they did other stuff. And it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not someone that cheers for people doing like failing, because failing is so common, right?
Yep.
Failing is so normal. People are where in like the middle class area I'm from, failing was like what was expected. And I'm a special ed student. I was put in special ed in 7th grade. I was victimized. I was all types of this. I was given a Carl's Jr. application in the 8th grade because I was told I couldn't go to college. I went to college as a FU to the people that told me I wasn't ish.
Wow.
So it's like where I'm from, I came back to my neighborhood after I came to college, and they asked me how jail was or how prison was because no one could
Mm.
believe that I didn't go to college. I say all that to say I empathize with the young man because I know how it feels to hate yourself more than anyone can hate you. But that's the type of story I'm going to tell in my next book.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's really interesting, brother. And once again, Luke Ketelle, Inside the Ropes of Boxing. Guys, please go contribute and purchase this very introverted, very insightful book. Go purchase on Amazon. Guys, Luke, thank you so much for being our special guest tonight. And I tell you what, brother, as insightful as you are, we would love to have you back anytime, sir.
Yeah, just reach out. I'm typically pretty free, but then every now and then I'm not. So just reach out, and you're a really nice guy. So, we can make it work, I'm not a scary individual, just reach out to my phone.
Well, God bless you, Lukey. Thank you so much for devoting this time to our channel on Monday night after the Cowboys get their big victory.
And
And yes, I'm going to
subscribe
throw
to the
that in there.
channel. Subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button. And if you the thing, Anthony in the chat said, Luke, can you check your book out in the library? And you have audiobooks as well. I'm working on trying to get the book in the library right now, Anthony. I'm also working on trying to get the book in the prison system and in the youth ranches. So I'm working on trying to get it in the juvenile justice system, the prisons, and in the libraries right now. So hopefully soon.
There it is. Luke, thank you so much for being our special guest tonight, sir. God bless you, brother. And we hope to have you back very, very soon. God bless you, my friend. And we hope to speak to you very soon. God bless you, brother. And I tell you what, guys, I'm going to go ahead and drop the link so anyone can join me. But we want to thank Luke Ketelle for being our very special guest. And it's our pleasure to help promote his book, right? Let's see. There it is. Hold on. Want to welcome our brother Peter Von Arx to the show. He says, Packers beat the Bucks. Yes, and my Cowboys just beat the undefeated Giants. How do you like that? But I tell you what, man, Luke's an interesting guy, and he's been through a lot, and we really hope his book does very well. And we really hope he meets his quota, right? I'm going to be putting out a book later on this year devoted to my mentor, Don Warwick Chargan. And it's going to be his memoirs of some of his best stories. So I can't wait to put that out. Looking forward to that. It's going to be out by the end of the year. But guys, I tell you what, there's a lot of misunderstanding regarding Tyson Fury at this time, right? Tyson Fury stating he's not fighting Anthony Joshua next because he missed the deadline, right? He was supposed to sign the contract today. What does that mean exactly? Guys, let me tell you exactly what that means. He's not fighting Manuel Char. Okay, once again, he's grown accustomed to making $25, $30, and $31 million in his last 3 events. How much is any network going to give him to fight Manuel Char? Can anyone answer that? It's nowhere close to what he's grown accustomed to making. And if you think this gentleman, this outspoken, braggadocious gentleman, is going to make anywhere near that amount fighting Manuel Char, well, you've got another thing coming. The only way this guy comes out of retirement, right, is if he fights Anthony Joshua or Alexander Usyk. Those are the only fights, those are the only matchups in which he makes that kind of coin. And at this time, I'd like to welcome my brother to the show, Frank by the Bay. Frank, how are you doing, brother?
I'm good. How about you, Joe?
Well, I tell you what, man, I'm a little hammered right now, and
Hey,
I'm about
that's
to get
the way to
even
live.
more. And there you go. I've got a full bottle of Sweet Amber. How do you like that?
Sounds good to me.
Oh, and there you have it, brother. Hold on, man. Let me break it out of the bag here, man. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Here we go. I'm gonna crack this open right now. Did you hear that, brother?
I did. Sounds good.
There it is. And I'm gonna pour this into my glass. And so here's to you, Frank. God bless you, brother.
Cheers.
And once again, sweet bitch on my brother Big Lukey for coming on and giving us that solemn story.
Yeah, I felt I was in church.
I'm telling you, brother. I'm telling you, that was pretty heavy.
Yeah, no, I was listening. I was like, "Whoa, this is some." It was pretty introspective.
Yeah. Well, look. Everyone within the business has stories of that nature. But anyone who's been in this business for a considerable amount of time has good stories as well. Okay? And the genesis of my best stories have everything to do with the guys that I still surround myself with. Right? Ronnie Shields, James Gogi, the late great Emmanuel Stewart, and the late great Don Warwick Jargon. Right? Those guys were the greatest. And once again, I just lean on all of those, right? Let me give you a story, right?
Okay.
Of the late great Emmanuel Stewart, right? And this is when he was very sick, and his toughness, right? His personal toughness actually was a hindrance and a great disservice to his life, because he didn't go to the doctor until it was too late, right? He didn't go to the doctor until it was too late. And I remember I was supposed to call an event for him at the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, Michigan, right? And I flew up there, and I called him up, and I said, "Emmanuel, I'm here." And he said, "Whoa, no one called you? No one told you that we canceled the event because of my health?" And I said, no one told me that. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. We had to cancel that event because of my health. But we're going to slate, because apparently someone forgot to tell everyone. And so everyone's here in town. So we're going to slate a special evening of sparring at the Kronk." And he asked me to put out a press release, and I did. And so I was there, and I was the ring announcer on the live broadcast as well as the commentator, right? And so I was taking turns doing Jimmy Lennon Jr., Michael Buffer, Lupe Contreras, and I was doing all of this for all of his amateur fighters who were sparring that day, as well as his young pros. And he came up to me the only time I saw him that weekend, because he was very ill. And he came up to me and he said, Thank you, Joseph, for making my young fighters feel special. Thank you for giving them the royal treatment and for doing the ring announcing as if they were in a real live prize fight. And I felt his hand come into my left pocket. And I didn't think anything of it, right? And I continued as I was. I continued with the business. And I kept on doing the entire broadcast. And when I left, right, I looked in my pocket and there was $5,000.
Oh, that's a nice chunk.
Emmanuel was the very best. He took care of everyone. He took care of everybody. And you know what? That's from my experience, that's very few and far in between. Most people aren't as good as Emmanuel in this business. Because Emmanuel, he actually confided in me and said, you know what, Joseph? Most people think because of the champions that I've actually coached and because of my gig on HBO, most people think that I'm a rich man, but I'm not. All of my money goes back into my fighters, both amateur and pro, as a manager and a trainer. And I wouldn't take that back for anything. And let me tell you, not a day goes by that I don't miss Emmanuel Stewart. He was the very best. He was the best person that I've ever met in this business. And there will never be another Emmanuel Stewart.
But that's a testament to how great he was, is that, you know, he's gone and you're still talking about him.
Well, let me tell you, you know, after he passed away, we had a very commemorative show. And this was back when my show was back on the East Side Boxing, right? And I had Ronnie Shields, because Ronnie was a protege of Emmanuel Stewart, right? And I interviewed Ronnie, and I asked him about Emmanuel, and I said, can you share some of your stories? And he said, you know what? Most people don't realize that everything about Emmanuel was good. Like, even when he was a hard ass, it was for your own best interest. Even when he laid the hammer down and we would talk down to you, it was for your own good. It was for your own best interest. And unfortunately, most fighters, before he passed away, didn't perceive it that way. They took offense to it. I never did. Like, I'll never forget, one time I was in the gym with Emmanuel, and I would say something, and he would look at me like I just pissed in his cornflakes. Right?
Right.
And I would be like, what's wrong, Emmanuel? And he would correct me. He would set me straight. And I never forgot it. But I was humble. And I was just, I felt privileged just to be in his company. That's how special Emmanuel was. He was the very best, guys. He was the very best. And there will never be another Emmanuel Stewart. Just like there will never be another Don Chargan, right? A guy who put on shows and never depended on TV dates. Never depended on a big casino site fee. If he told a fighter that he was going to stage a fight, stage an event, and he was going to feature them on their card, he would pay it out of his own pocket. And he would take care of everyone out of his own pocket. Whether there was a site fee or a licensing fee attached to it. Guys, those guys were the last of the Mohicans. And to be honest with you, when they passed away, that's why I exited the boxing business.
Yeah, I heard you say that.
And I came back a half a decade later. And why? It's almost like Godfather, right? Godfather 3. Al Pacino goes, as soon as I think I'm out, they pull me back in. Right. You look, once you're in this business, you're a lifer. You can't escape it. And that's what my friend Lukey was saying.
Yeah, I
It's
felt
like
that.
whether you like it or not, and he almost seemed it like he was in this business still begrudgingly, didn't he?
Yeah, I had that same sentiment. Yeah, yeah. Like those old cop shows, you know, like where they're like still pursuing the criminal and they're just like still doing this shit. What is that? What Danny Glover always had that line? I'm too
I'm
old for
too
this
old for
shit.
this shit.
Yeah,
But that's it. That's it. Right? It's like,
yeah.
guys, once you're in this business, once you've been bitten by the boxing bug,
Well, isn't
whether
that
you're
the kind of the theme?
hold on, whether
Oh,
you're a fan or you're a proponent of this business, you're a
and I
lifer.
and I kind
You're a
of think
lifer.
like this is a different kind of spin on it, but I kind of think like if you remember, did you remember Million Dollar Baby? Some people liked it, some people didn't.
I
But
hated that movie.
you hated it?
The
Okay.
Clint Eastwood movie. I couldn't
Yeah.
stand it because
Wow.
it just brought out all the negative parts of the boxing business.
Well, I just mean from the Clint Eastwood character, like you were saying about,
Oh,
you
he
know,
was great. He was great, man. As
the
far as a trainer, yeah.
yeah, like he like which we were the theme of kind of begrudgingly still pursuing the sport because it's just you've been in it, and now it's who you are. That's what the character reminded me of.
And
Is
there it is.
Catherine?
And there it is. Let me tell you. And Peter Von Arx has a beat. He says Emmanuel Stewart was a down home kind of guy, and most people don't realize, right? He loved to cook, like just to be in his kitchen, right? And just to let you know what it was like to be in his house. You know how most people, their silverware, right, and their faucets and their stoves and everything is silver, right? All of his silverware was gold. Everything was gold plated.
He
And
was the Kronk father.
it was an honor to watch him work, whether be it in the gym, whether it was in his kitchen, to see him cook for his fighters, and he cooked for every single one of his fighters, including Adonis Stevenson, including Michael Moore, including Andy Lee, every single one of his fighters, including Canine Bundridge. He cooked for everyone because he wanted to make sure that they were putting in their bodies, well, everything that he oversaw, I guess it would be the proper grammar. But want to give a shout out to my brother Montequilla, Adam Lopez. Yeah, so bad. Tell you what, no, you didn't miss anything, Adam. I'll tell you what, brother. We had our brother Luke Ketelle, right, promoting his book. But we're going to be on for a little while longer. And once again, if you'd like to join the show, sir, I'm going to drop the link and we can talk about whatever you'd like. If you have your headphones, right? If you have your headphones, come on, join the panel. Yeah, we'll talk about whatever you want. We can talk about, well, let me scroll up real quick because I had a message from my brother Rodney Evans. He said, he said this. It was kind of funny. He goes, hold on, let me pull this up real quick. He said, damn, Joe, thought we'd get an announcement. Well, let me bring you guys up to speed, right? The last I heard, which is almost 3 weeks ago, right, is that Terrence Crawford and Bomac, right? Stephen Espinoza had a heart-to-heart with both of them and actually explained the numbers to them and convinced them that $8.5 billion was a justified purse, right? Not the 15 that he was requesting. Okay. And that he explained to them and broke down everything, broke down the numbers that the Showtime shareholders were willing to commit to this event. And anyone who tries to tell you that this is a 30-70 split or a 35-65 split, Crawford Spence, okay, they have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. This is a 50-50 fight, okay? This is a 50-50 fight, guys. Right?
50-50 in the you mean the odds or the what?
No. I don't care about that shit. That's up to the odds makers. That's up to the fans, right? I'm talking about the purse split. This is 50-50, okay? Guys, I'm sorry. My brother just drove up, so I'm going to have to cut this short. Frank, thank you so much for being a part of the show, sir. I'm going to have to cut this short. We'll be back tomorrow with our brother Ronnie Shields, and we'll go over everything, right?
Cool.
But right now, we would like to thank my brother Frank by the Bay for making an appearance on the show, as well as my brother Luke Ketelle. Guys, go please buy his book, Inside the Ropes of Boxing. Please go buy that on Amazon. Please go show your support. He's a great guy. He's a very insightful boxing scribe. He's one of the last of the Mohicans, right? So God bless all of you guys. Frank, any parting shots, sir?
No, just looking forward to the next episode.
It's going to be tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. So please join us, guys, for Real Boxing with Ronnie Shields. God bless all of you. Tell you what, guys, it's always an experience. Thank you so much for sharing the air with us this evening. And you guys, we'll see you tomorrow.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away?